So when I was considering how to summarize 200 years of history of a state with millions of people and only 5 minutes of music, I decided to focus on a key characteristic of New South Wales, which is that it's always perpetually in motion. And that motion isn't aimless, it's always with a purpose. It's always striving for something with a sense of perseverance and progress. And throughout New South Wales, you'll see bustling cities, sprawling suburbs, you'll see motion across vast landscapes in rural and regional areas. My work has a three-part structure. In the middle, there is a slower, more reflective section, and it's more emotionally ambiguous, less unequivocally joyful than the initial section, because when we reflect on our history, there are both positive and negative aspects. And then it returns to the faster section with heightened enthusiasm, then progresses to a very forward-looking, optimistic ending, which I hope sparks the audience to imagine a brighter future.
In Reese's piece, there's a section where the strings each have a series of semiquavers, so very fast notes that are going together, and it passes from the double basses to the cello to the violas to the second violins to the first violins, and it's quite difficult to get that absolutely flowing so that for the audience it feels as though the sound just passes evenly around the ensemble.
A lot of time signature changes, some really practical things that are hard to nail together as an orchestra, and there has to be a lot of communication whilst playing, which I think is very difficult.
I find the big ideas, the pillars of the work, quite easy to create and quite intuitive. And so what often ends up happening is I have large sections and clumps which I need to try and join together. And so I find the process of transitions very difficult. And so in Striving Spirit specifically, the transition into the slower section was one that I spent a lot of time on, trying to make it both a mini climax or a culmination of what came before, as well as something that dissipated the energy so it felt appropriate and smooth going down into the slower section. I drew inspiration from a fairly broad and eclectic range of sources that somewhat reflects the rich reservoir of influences on New South Wales as a whole. My primary inspirations were Australian composers. A significant one was Paul Stanhope, who was a professor at the Con. His work, Dancing on Clouds, I owe a great debt to. I also drew inspiration from another Australian composer called Natalie Nicholas, who was a big stylistic inspiration. Aside from Australian influences, there were several overseas influences. So I was influenced by the American composer Jessie Montgomery. Particularly her piece Starburst was a large inspiration for Striving Spirit. I drew inspiration from the Japanese composer Takashi Yoshimatsu as well. I also snuck in the variation of the Chinese tune Butterfly Lovers. You can hear that in the violin solo during the slower, more reflective section. You might hear traces of Arabic influence as well in the viola solo. I also snuck in a sneaky reference to Waltzing Matilda for those with a keen ear. Absolutely none of the players or composition staff noticed, so if you in the audience noticed, then you're doing very well.
In Rhys Owen's piece, it's very bright and rhythmic, and you'll hear really great use of percussion in that piece.
The entire piece is incredibly playful and very spirited.
It's a really highly energetic piece of music that feels like a real celebration and lots of dynamic contrast.
I hope everyone listening is taken on a journey that prompts them to reflect on the past, celebrate the present, and imagine a more hopeful and optimistic future for New South Wales.